How did the UFC become one of the greediest companies in all of combat sports? From its humble beginnings to becoming a mega Goliath of a company worth $12 billion, and now being almost synonymous with the sport of MMA. How did a company with so many die-hard and loving fans become one of the most cruel and vindictive businesses behind the scenes? Since early in Dana White's life, he knew that he would eventually make something of himself in the fight business.
From the time I was a young age, I knew I wanted to be in the fight business, and people thought I was crazy.
But it was most certainly not an easy journey, from being a 19-year-old working in hotel lobbies to making one of the richest companies that have ever existed. It was here in Boston that Dana met one of the most single important figures in shaping his future.
And this is where it all started for me and Peter Welsh.
Things were working well for Dana, making small progress in learning the ins and outs of the boxing promotion world, until one fateful day.
One day I'm actually in there teaching a class, and these guys literally walk right into the middle of the class. And they're like, hey, we need to talk to you. And I said, I'm teaching a class here. And they're like, we need to talk to you outside. They start asking me if I know who they are, and I don't.
When he walked down the street, the sidewalk shook. We're talking about the notorious mobster, James Whitey Bulger.
He was the inspiration for Jack Nicholson's character in the movie.
Three words that describe Whitey Bulger.
Stone cold killer.
That's Southie, where he did most of his crime. He murdered people there, he buried people there, and he went to sleep there.
Whitey Bulger had a guy who worked under him, and his name was Kevin Weeks. Yeah, they wanted $2,500 from me.
21 years old, you might as well ask me for $25,000. Right. I didn't have $2,500.
What do you do?
I ignored him. I didn't do anything. You know, I tried to avoid him for a while, and you can only avoid that shit for so long. And months went by, and one day I got a call at my apartment. The guy's like, you got till tomorrow at 1 to pay us. And I said, or what? We're gonna find out what. I said, okay. I hung up the phone, picked it back up and called Delta and got a one-way ticket to Vegas.
After moving to Vegas, Dana White met up with his high school friend, Lorenzo Fertitta, who at this point had his own gambling casinos in Vegas, and had recently become a part of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. During this time, the UFC was in a state where the only path forward left for the company was failure. So Dana reached out to Lorenzo and they came together to buy out the UFC for $2 million. And from here on out, the UFC went from stride to stride, gaining a bigger and bigger fan base across the world. And on April 6th of 2013, marked the debut of a figure who would take the UFC to new heights. Conor McGregor undoubtedly took the UFC to levels of fame and monetary success that the UFC had never seen before. From his undying confidence in himself, his complete dominance on the mic.
This guy TKOs people. When I knock people out, they don't fucking move. Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
And of course, his ability in the cage, taking 8 out of the 10 biggest UFC pay-per-view buys. And in fact, some of the biggest stars in the UFC have only come as a result of facing against Conor McGregor. It was when Khabib dominated Conor that he rose to become a superstar, and you could say the same for Nate Diaz. And yet, in the same year that Conor made his UFC debut, around the world, something that would eventually cause the UFC so much anger was just starting to sprout. In November of 2013, Francis Ngannou made his MMA debut fighting under a French promotion. Francis Ngannou's migration journey is a remarkable tale of perseverance, determination, and unwavering ambition. Born in a small village in Cameroon, Ngannou's early life was marked by poverty and adversity. Growing up in a family of humble means, he dreamt of a better life, one removed from the harsh realities of his surroundings. At the age of 26, Ngannou embarked on a perilous journey, leaving behind his home and loved ones in search of a brighter future. His destination? Europe, where he hoped to make a name for himself as a professional boxer. However, his path was fraught with challenges as he faced treacherous deserts, turbulent seas, and the ever-present threat of human traffickers. He eventually found his way to France, where he began to rebuild his life in the streets of Paris. He faced homelessness and destitution, yet his unwavering commitment to his dreams kept him going. His remarkable physical prowess didn't go unnoticed for long, and Ngannou's talents were soon discovered by his trainers at a local MMA gym. Under their guidance, he transitioned to mixed martial arts, where he discovered his true calling. With remarkable speed, he climbed the ranks of the sport, earning his place in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the world's #1 MMA organization. And at this point in Francis Ngannou's UFC journey, his relationship with Dana White didn't have any problems. In fact, Dana made some glowing statements about Francis's fighting ability.
And Francis Ngannou has the world record for the most powerful punch. His punch is the equivalent to 96 horsepower, which is equal to getting hit by a Ford Escort going as fast as it can.
However, despite things looking good between Francis and Dana, a lawsuit filed against the UFC would prove to foreshadow the ending of Francis and Dana White's future working relationship together. The fighter pay and antitrust lawsuit against the UFC, initiated in 2014, was a significant legal action in the world of mixed martial arts. Key claims included UFC's monopolistic position in the MMA market, restrictive contract terms, low fighter pay relative to revenue, and the promotion's control over fighter rankings. The amount of money UFC fighters make is, well, sad. Some of the biggest stars and some of the most famous names in the UFC don't make anywhere near as much money as they deserve. Fighters like Izzy, John Jones, and Islam Makhachev don't even come close to the type of money that you see at the higher ends in boxing. And the simple reason these A-list UFC fighters aren't getting the money that they are owed is for the fact that the UFC is a glutton of a company, where they will try their utmost best to make sure that they can pay their fighters as little as they possibly can get away with. And this aggressive hunger for money would be the reason why the UFC misses out on keeping one of their best fighters, misses out on making potentially one of the best fights in UFC history, and missed out on the only opportunity to show that MMA fighters are really the best in the world.